Hello everybody, I'm Never Dot. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to show you my new enamel pins, which are right here. Check them out. Shiny, 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 shiny. And they're really cool. I really like them. And I'm just going to go over a bit of the design decisions I made when designing them. How I made them, I've already talked about in another video. You can check the link out in the video description. Maybe I can embed it here. Bing. Did that work? Probably not. Anyways, let's go check out how I made these pins this time. Okay, first of all, I've got a Brontosaurus with a jetpack, 3 peas in a boat of their own making, and potato in a rocket ship. It is not a piece of poo in a rocket ship, it's a potato. Probably shouldn't say poo in my video. Also, I'm not going to be editing this video, so this is all just one straight take, no edits, no cuts. Now, how did I get to this final state? Well, I started out by sketching them. Was working on a few different concepts for the Brontosaurus. I knew I wanted a second dinosaur for the second series, also a vegetable and hopefully an animal. Didn't quite get the animal. I don't have that many animal characters actually in my comics. So, working on the dinosaur, this was actually a very tricky one because the Brontosaurus is quite large, long, and the pin shouldn't really be that long. So, it's a bit tricky. And I wanted to involve him with some technology, so I put him in some hovercrafts, some spaceships as you can see here, and got him in a rocket there. None of it was really quite to my liking, because having him just sit in something, maybe had some wings on him, so he's flying through the air. And ultimately I got down to like the jetpack, and that seemed kind of funny because the Brontosaurus on a jetpack, the weight distribution ratio is probably going to make them spin and vomit all over the place, and hopefully over an amusement park where happy-go-lucky people are eating their cotton candy and they get dinosaur vomit on their heads. So I refined the concept here, and you can see the sketches, and I was quite liking it, how he's pudgy. He's got little pudgy legs just dangling as he flies through the air, and I think I got quite attached to this concept. And then the rocket blast of the fire, that's quite an attractive symbol to have tacked on to the end. So I quite like this one. Now if we flip back to the previous concepts, we can also see the beginnings of where the rocket ship came from, because I was originally going to have the peas in the rocket ship, but it didn't look quite, didn't make a lot of sense because they're just going to flop out if it's ripped up the center like that. But also I've got the peas in the boat, and I like the boat. It makes a lot of sense with the pea pod in the boat. And then I wanted the rocket ship. I really wanted a metal rocket ship like you see here, and it's really fun, so I'm just going to jam the potato in it. Logan the potato. He's a fun guy. He's the kind of guy that would risk death to go to space, be the first Spud in space, Spudnik. So now you can see down here, I've also got a few other concepts I was working around with. Maybe the bird would have been the other animal pin. My bird character is not that dominant yet, so people probably don't recognize it, as if you recognize anything. But another concept I really, really like that I might do in future, but I didn't know how it would work because it has a bit of thin pieces, holes in it. Might not work that well as a pin, but I'm thinking maybe recessed metal in the future would be good. In a little, what is this, a mushroom, the Amanita mushroom with a bow and arrow. So a little catness going on with the mushroom. I might do that in future, we will see. But how do we get to this state then? Once I had the concept sketched out, and I did that in China, if you saw my other video, I was in China, I had no computer. I got back to my computer and just quickly drew these. Actually, they only took about an hour to do all 3, and popped open Krita. Krita's a free open source painting program. Sketched them out with a sort of a thick pen brush, no texture, because I'm going to have to vectorize these later in Illustrator. So again, popping them open in Illustrator, trace them, just black and white, and then sort of do my magic of getting the central fill colors sorted out. And that's how you create the vector form for the shop. For the piece I have this narrow oar bit, which I actually did sort of, I think, draw in Illustrator, or did I just trace it? It looks pretty good, so I think I did it in Illustrator and mirrored it and then rotated it over that. Because if you can take advantage of the vector tools to get perfect lines and perfectly parallel lines, why not? This is a pin, and it will be pretty obvious if you're hand drawing these things, which it is hand drawn, except for the parts that I parallel lines, because I have a hard time getting perfectly parallel lines. I wanted this to be good because I'm paying a lot of money for these. And a little cute little hat. Now, something cool on the Brontosaurus pin is that I've got the jetpack, and You're kind of limited in colors with enamel pins. You don't want to have too many because that just increases the cost. So you want to be economical with your color choices. And the Brontosaurus has a jetpack, and I wanted the jetpack to be kind of futuristic. I was going to put maybe some lights on it, but the lights are adding colors for a very small amount of area. So what if I use the metal as a color? So if you see here, when it's highlighted, there's some extra sort of greebles, texture, I don't know, design patterns on the jetpack. That is created by the metal reflection. So when it hits the light just the right way, you see this extra detail. And I quite like that. And I like playing around with using the metal in this way. It's not just an outline color, it is a color in its own right. The rocket ship, of course, oh, my favorite. And it's just very cute. I've always wanted a little rocket ship pin. And also got these little, I like how the size, the minimum size of any part of the metal is about 0.2 millimeters. So I've got these 0.2 millimeter sort of rivets going along the top. Probably can't see that. Anyways, it has a nice little bit of a detail texture. You can feel it if you touch it. And again, metal representing metal. I love that. So I just really like the rocket ship pin. It's quite cute. And again, yeah, I did go into Illustrator and perfectly make it symmetrical so that it would look good. But the rest of it's all properly hand-drawn. Now, one thing I did have a bit of difficulty with this run is just color selection. Usually that's not a big deal, but in this case, I'm choosing among Pantone colors. Pantone colors give you a one-to-one, should be one-to-one, representation of what you see is what you get on the physical media, because physical media changes color when you go from digital to physical. So you don't want that. You want to know what you're going to be representing in real life. If you're paying a lot of money and this is a one-off, you can't go fix it or recolor it in. So I was having a bit of trouble with the brown of the potato because my potato brown in my comic is a dull brown. And the dull brown in the Pantone sequence it was labeled as a gray, a warm gray. And that gave me a little bit of a red flag because it says gray. Is it going to come out gray? Is my monitor adding a bit of yellow to it? It could be. And I know my monitor's not properly color calibrated and I really should get to that. But I had to contact my middleman guy and he sent me some color swatches, Pantone color swatches to match. Although again, going through the lighting in the room will change the color, then sending it over email in a digital picture changes the color. So I was having a hard time judging which Pantone brown was the brown I was trying to get. And this one came out pretty close, 99% close, but it's just a little bit lighter than I wanted. I still love it. It's fantastic and it's exactly right. But I really do need to get a Pantone book. And Pantone books, they're pretty cheap at like $500 or $900. I don't know why it costs that much money to print a bunch of colors in a book. One thing that came up with this pin order that I hadn't encountered before is that these pins have a different number of posts on the back. The boat pin has 2 posts to keep it stable, and this flying guy pin currently has 1. When I sent it off, it was originally proposed to me with 2, and I was like, I don't want 2 posts. That's kind of fiddly when you pin it on your shirt. I mean, it's just going to be 2, and hard enough to get 1 in without managing with 2. Now, the boat one I can understand. You want to keep it sort of oriented in a particular way. But in my mind, this jetpack, I kind of pictured it being on my shirt and then me flying it around and twisting it in different directions. So I kind of wanted it to be 1 post so I could freely manipulate it on my shirt later throughout the day. Like maybe I'm having a bad day and Mr. Agent Pickle wants to fly down. So I asked for that to be reduced to 1. That caused my little logo to shift around on the back. As you see here, I have a Never Dot logo text on the back of the pin, so you know where it comes from. If you're ever wondering, where did this cute pin come from? At Comic-Con, some people came back and asked, I don't know where I got this pin, but I'm so glad I found you. So they should have looked at the back. I guess it's not that obvious, but it's a good thing to add to your pins if you're doing pins, just to brand it so people can find your website, because there's not a lot of space. The cards I popped up a lot. I was happy with my previous designs, but I wanted them to pop a lot more, basically make them more advertising. So it's nicer on the eye. These ones, they look more attractive. The first run that I did, the previous series 1, my intention was that the 3 cards would come together to make a larger picture, and then in the future, if I released many, many more pins, you would be able to make a poster with all the different cards. But, you know, I don't know, the poster wasn't that amazing. Not worth buying that many pins. So let's ditch that and switch to just having these cool graphics. Now, I do notice that, you know, I don't know how readable the text is with the pin on top. I might change that in the future for the Series 3 next year, or whenever I get to do it. The back I kept the same generally, just slapped my Neverdot logo quite large, and I've adopted my Neverdot written icon, text logo, whatever you call it, all over the place, just for better branding. I think it looks quite nice. This time I don't have any pins through anybody's face, except for Piana. Sorry, Piana, you're completely gone. Oh well. Yeah, and Logan's ship is punctured, and yeah, the jetpack's also, whatever. The pin obviously blocks some of the imagery, but I'm fine with that. People aren't going to keep it on the card. Maybe. Probably not. Now when drawing all of these things, I just did have to keep in mind the minimum width of about 0.2 millimeters, which is actually quite small. I do have a very small thin oar, and I don't want that protruding too far off the pin, because it could become a stabbing implement if it gets too far away. Then it's just a needle. The enamel does have to fit into 0.2 mil spaces, so everywhere all the regions are large enough. I did my little tracing with my ball on stick method, and it worked quite well. This time I didn't really have many problems. In Illustrator, before sending it off, I do go through my tracing, because the tracing is good, but when you get up close, you can see that it's not as sharp as you might want, so I hardened up a bunch of edges and corners to make sure they were proper edges and corners. And when like tracing this guy, since I know the way Illustrator is going to trace some things and match up some intersections of hard lines, I kept them on separate layers in my painting, so that when I trace them, I could trace them in separate layers and then merge them together. Because if I merge all the, the line art and then trace it, I got a lot more work to unbind those intersections that sort of soften. If I keep them as separate layers and not intersecting, they won't do that. Just saves a bit of time. So I hope you found this video useful as far as how you design pins, or how I design pins anyways, and give you maybe some tips that you can find useful for doing your own pins. And remember to keep in mind good colors, not too many colors, and use your metal effectively. And don't forget the backing cards. They are very useful for sales. Until next time, see ya. There's a lot of missed opportunities here. See, with the mushroom, I was thinking of either bow and arrow, or maybe cooler would be like holding a kettle or a TV or some just random coins. Because, an old style TV with the antennas is what all the boys and girls want to have pinned to their shirts. Or a kettle. Thank you for watching my enamel pin design video. I hope it does provide you some fascinating whatever, insights or something. Please like, subscribe, comment again, reply to some comments, and then comment about those comments in the comments below. Comment. Until next time, see ya.